Hi, Clarissa.
Hey, yeah,
Good to see you
finally.
again.
Good to see you too.
Yes. Today I'd love to dive into your background and your story just a little bit and really paint the picture of like how you came to this book. You've had such a varied life experience that all kind of led you here. So could you talk to us a little about just a quick summary of like your life experiences that eventually led you to write this book
Yeah.
and put it out in 2021?
Yeah, well, the book is called The Self-Esteem Regime, and it's, an organized way of becoming the, confident person you were meant to be, and a lot of people don't really think about the self-esteem a lot. It's not, like, on the top of the agenda a lot of times, whereas it really should be because it's your life's blueprint. And so I think that's really one of the most important things that, we can start talking about is who are we? How do we show up for ourselves? How are we showing up for others if we are at all? How are we, who are we when nobody else is in the room? When we're not being checked and when, we have to take accountability for ourselves. A lot of people kind of fall short in these areas. They don't understand that the relationship to self is one of the most important relationships you will ever have, and that when you show up, confidere, confidere means with trust. Another language, and the Latin base root for languages, and so confidere means with trust. So self confidence is trust in self. And it's really, really one of the greatest things that you'll ever lead with, no matter where you go, no matter what room you walk into, no matter what interview you will sit in front of, and dating the same thing, because that's a type of interview as well. So all the things in life are, really wrapped around how our feet hit the ground in the morning and how we're feeling about ourselves. The caveat to all of that is life is going to life, and things will get difficult and things trigger. And so my strong message is to always have the tools in the shed on any given day, because those tools, i.e., the work that you will do on yourself, the books, the courses, the classes, and the like that you will ingest, will always serve you in difficult moments when life does trigger.
Yeah, I think oftentimes when life situations happen to us, the default is to go back to our childhood
Yes.
programming or
Regress. Yes,
family
we regress.
programming.
Yep.
And oftentimes what will happen is a life event kind of unfolds in front of us, or sometimes maybe explodes in front of us. And we just go to the default. And then it's not until afterwards that maybe
Yeah.
we look back and think, okay, maybe I could have handled that differently, or maybe I could have chosen different
Oh, yeah.
choices.
All the things. And that's where we start to talk about emotional intelligence and really understanding what that is and what it means. So if we want to go all the way back, we really are nothing more than a sum of what generations before us, that came before us, were taught. Right. And so a lot of those things, the traditions, and some good, some bad, are things that, we grew up thinking were kind of etched in stone. And that's just the way it was until we get out of the house and we kind of go, maybe things are a little bit different. I mean, in my house, there was a lot of yelling and screaming. And so when I left the house, just kept yelling and screaming at everybody. And I found it really quickly that didn't work. People don't like that stuff. So it's just an example, if you will, of, the things that we need to take accountability for and understand. Yelling and screaming is never going to work. We all know that. But, the idea that we have to start working on that is opening. It's life changing as well.
Yeah. This kind of leads into what we spoke about last time about generational
Trauma.
traumas and how your work helps with that too.
Yeah.
And also, I want to touch upon, one of the things that you mentioned last time that kind of opened your eyes to start looking at this and writing this book was the relationship that you had with your mother and then
Yeah.
your grandmother too.
Grandma. Yeah.
Explain to us like when that realization happened where you're like, huh, it's not just me, it's affecting them as well. And then that led you to like dive in deeper and then eventually write this
Well,
book.
mom and dad both went to 12 years of Catholic school. Dad to the priests, mom to the nuns. And so, the Irish Catholic upbringing was very strict. It was really quite difficult. And so my mother, who is just a very beautiful woman, who is extremely intelligent, Dean's List all 4 years, salutarian in her class, I was curious, as most teenagers are. My mother was 18 years old, and boom, next thing you know, she was pregnant out of wedlock. And back in 1958, when I was conceived, that was a big no-no, and it was a huge no-no for the Catholic Church. So I think that really was, a really big hit for her. back in the day because she had no support at all. There was nowhere she could turn. And it immediately tagged her as a black sheep in the family until, of course, I was born, and then things started to soften a little bit. And so my father came from a female dominated household, and my mother from a male dominated household. And when they when they had to get married, that was just a relationship doomed to fail because they were children having children with no real knowledge of what love is and what life is, basically, right? I mean, what did they really know? So my mother, I would see her and say, "Mom, you're so smart." "Oh, believe me, I'm not smart." "Mommy, you're so pretty." "Oh, I'm not pretty." "Mom, let's take a picture." "Oh, I come out horrible in pictures. I could never. And I think I had promised you the picture, to show you the picture of mom. Here's mom. I don't know what you see.
Oh, yes.
So there's
She's in the
mom.
white, dress there, right?
Yes. I think
Yes.
you'll agree that mom is a lovely looking woman. That happens to be me next to her. But just so you get an idea as to what we're talking about. What do you mean you don't see? I come out horrible in pictures. She looks like, a Hollywood movie star. So the idea is, wow, I'm kind of thinking to myself as a young girl, I see it. My perception of her is completely different than her perception. My grandmother, another, this is a very young, it's a young picture of her, right? Younger picture of her. But I think you'll understand that lovely looking girl.
Yes.
Same thing. I think when she was in her 50s, she thought she needed to lose weight. Didn't need to lose an ounce, but she had to lose weight. So she took those 2 diet pills, she swallowed them, choked on them, and perforated her esophagus. That kept her in the hospital for 6 weeks. And I'm looking and I'm thinking, what's going on here? These women that I look up to, they're absolute dea. I mean, to me, they were goddesses, right? Did not have the same perception of self. So that's kind of where I started to understand a little bit, of course. And as I grew, I would start to go into the bookstores, Walden Books, Borders Books, and Barnes and Noble. And in the very corner, there was a little section called self help. And that's where I went to sort of kind of figure things out. I got some assistance, some support, some solace, some understanding of what it was I was going through as I was going through life's growing pains. And fast forward, now I'm in New York City, I'm modeling, I'm over in Europe, I'm modeling all over the world. I'm having a really great career in modeling. And I noticed that even some of the models were having difficulty with self-esteem, whether it be drug and alcohol use. And look, I understand that young kids, they experiment, it's all great. But there was, just toxic relationships and bulimia and anorexia in some cases. And so, I'm thinking to myself, where's the connection between my mom and my grandmom in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and the 1% of the most beautiful women on the runways of the world? And of course, the answer there, Alexander, is, the lack of happy, healthy self-esteem.
And, growing up and seeing your mother and your grandmother not really value themselves in that way, how did they parent you? Like, I'm imagining that their patterns were kind of
Yeah.
passed on to you as
Don't
well.
look at boys, never call boys. If they look at
Right.
you, don't look back. You never call a boy. So there was a lot of very negative. It was, first of all, it was set up to be this like really scary place to be. Oh my God.
Okay.
What am I going to do if a guy looks at me? It was like a really scary moment, in life as a pre-adolescent and an adolescent to understand that men were basically not a good thing. Men were not a really good thing. They were not, to keep them at a distance. And you didn't dare ask questions. You just went, okay. So I had
And
to work through all of that, right?
what were you praised for and what were you punished for?
We were punished for almost everything.
Okay.
I was very gregarious as a child. In fact, I was Mary Poppins in the kindergarten play. The little girl that I just showed you in that picture was Mary Poppins in the
Okay.
kindergarten play. And I was very gregarious. And I remember that I would come home and I was doing imitations. And there was a woman, old vaudeville actress by the name of, oh God, I just had it in my head. Ethel Merman. And I used to do, and I did imitations of a lot of people. Well, that used to drive my mother nuts. She didn't like that at all. Then there was another guy, a comedian called Flip Wilson. And there was a show on in the 70s. It was like, and he would do this bit called "Here Come the Judge, Here Come the Judge, the court's in session now, here come the judge." And I love that. So I would parrot these kinds of things as a child. She did not like that at all. Uh, the things that I was loaded for were intelligence. I was quick. I was smart. I was reliable. I was dependable. I was the oldest. And therefore, I was given a lot of responsibility as a young girl. So I took on a lot of what was needed in the home as opposed to being able to go out and grow. And so, yeah, look, it's all good. I'm not, this is not about parent bashing. That's not why I'm here. It's not a healthy thing to do. It never works. And you just have to thank them for what you were taught as you move on to learn other things, right? Um, so no parent bashing here. I wouldn't be the woman I am today without that kind of parenting, you know? So it's all good. And remember, they were completely different times, completely different days. You know, the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, there were different times. So it's actually when, you know, you had manners and respect for other people, but I digress.
So you notice the connection between your grandmother, your mom, and then, these other lovely
Yeah.
supermodel ladies that you're working with.
Yeah.
When did you start training yourself to talk to yourself differently and to look at yourself differently?
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
how was that process?
as I said before, I would go into the bookstores. You know, I was
Yeah, okay.
starting into my early 20s, I think it was. I started in my early 20s and I went, "Oh, there's a book. That's interesting. Oh, I think that would help me." And so, look, I've read a million of them. I've got half a million of them in the back room. You know, don't ask me a name because I can't remember one because I just don't have that kind of recall. But, you know, just all of the kinds of things of the books that would talk to you about self-esteem or self-confidence and self-improvement, personal development. They really didn't coin the phrase personal development just yet that I know of. But, I started to read the books and then, you know, every day is another, opportunity for learning, right? No matter where you are, no matter where you go, no matter who you're working with, and I was able in my business, every day is different people. I didn't go to an office and see the same people every day. Every day was a different photographer, different makeup artist, different hair guy, different clothing company, you know, so there were always different things that perspectives on life that, you know, you could sort of garner from. And that was another really great, you know, I think it's one of the greatest things ever is to be able to travel the way I did and learn the way I did. I say I got my education on the streets of the world. And yeah, and it's been great. It was great.
Yeah, if the last time we talked, one of the things that new things that I picked up from your book that I had not heard of before was the exercise in the mirror.
Mirror therapy, yeah.
And I had never heard of that before. Could you just explain how you would use that, what that does, and yeah, just give us some
Yeah,
examples.
it's your own rah-rah session. And I do want to give credit, you know, where I first learned of it was Louise Hayes, Hayes House Publishing. You know, Louise Hayes started a publishing company many years ago. You can, you know, Google it. It's a phenomenal, probably $1 billion industry right now. And then Jack Canfield, the other half of the Chicken Soup for the Soul, along with Mark Richard Hansen, author, he also had it in his books. And I figured it was good enough for them. It was good enough for me. And I tried this exercise, which I find it's really the most incisive and direct to the core exercise that you may do. And that's when you go in and you talk to yourself in the mirror. So again, there are two ways of approaching a mirror. One is to look in the mirror and the one is to look at the mirror. And so when you're looking at the mirror, you're preening, you're getting ready, you're doing your makeup, you're doing shaving, whatever it is that we do as we're just, mindfully looking at the mirror, right? But when you look into the mirror, you're actually screening, and that's where you sit and you talk to yourself. And a lot of people they think look, it's weird. It feels weird. It looks weird. It sounds weird. The whole thing. It's really, it's not one of those things that just, bops into your head every day. But you sit down and you take the time with yourself. Start with a minute a day. Come back to me in 21 days and let me know how it goes. And it goes something like this. Hey, Clarissa, how you doing? You looking pretty good today. Yeah, I really like that new lipstick color on you. Great choice. And so, hey, great interview the other day with Alexander. I think you did a really good job there. I think you left his audience with some really good insights and wisdom. You sounded, pretty good. So I'm proud of you for that. Listen, I know that you have a big interview coming up tomorrow, so let's get ready for that. Go do all the things you need to do because, you want to give your best, put your best foot forward there. I want to let you know I really like you so much as a person, but I love you even more. And I forgive you for that time that you stayed in that relationship way too long. You knew you needed to get out before, and I know it was difficult, but I forgive you for all the pain you put yourself through. All right, honey, have a great day. Talk to you tomorrow.
That was such a perfect example. I showed you last time as you were explaining how to do that whole process. I was imagining myself not just looking at the mirror, but looking into the mirror and how I would approach it or what I might say. And I was like, I don't think I could start anywhere or do anything. So it definitely for me, as a
Yeah,
total newbie and beginner
right.
in that practice, I'd have to definitely kind of practice and get into it and
Yeah, it's not
get
one of those
used to
kind of
that.
things that yeah. And and so, as I had said to you in the book, there are so many, prompts and affirmations, and even if you just said find an affirmation you really like and go, "Wow, I'm gonna say that 20 times in the mirror to myself." I've gotta look at myself, I can't, but, you can use my mantra, just let's make that let's start. I wanna be a better person tomorrow than I am today. I want to be a better person tomorrow than I am today. Start with some of the affirmations. Don't even come up with it yourself. Just start with some of the affirmations. And then ask yourself questions. Am I really happy with who I am? Am I happy with my life's path? I want to let you know that I'm pretty happy with the life path that you're on, but I promise you that I'm going to sit down tonight and I'm going to make out a list of some of the things that I would like to see change. Okay, Alessandro? Okay, Alessandro. And so you have this conversation with yourself. It could be about anything. Great interview today. Geez, I feel really bad about blowing up, making this all up. I don't know a thing about you blowing up with my girlfriend. I feel bad that I blew up with my wife. I just, really feel bad. I really need to go apologize. I'll do that as soon as I'm done here because that's not who I am and that's not what I wanted to do. It's just the things, right? And I forgive you for that. And I hope they will forgive me too. You just have that conversation with yourself. And the end game, the end goal is really to, just say really positive things. If there are things you want to forgive yourself for, tell yourself that. But really, it's about, the momentum of positivity, of motivation, of inspiring yourself to be a better person tomorrow than you are today.
Yeah. Well, your book has 12 chapters,
Yes.
each with,
Beginning with a reword. Each begins with a reword.
yes, each section. Is there one in particular that's your favorite or that sticks out to you?
Yeah.
And
Well,
which one's that?
first of all, the book, I don't know if I've shown it to you yet. I think I sent it to you, didn't I? Yeah.
Yes, you sent
So
it to
the
me. Yep.
self-esteem regime. A regime is an organized way of doing things. So I made 12 chapters that starts with release and it ends with reciprocity. And there's all kinds of lovely rewords in the middle. But I think the most important of all of the chapters is indeed chapter 1, release, because we cannot build upon a foundation that is crumbly. That releasing is releasing what we've spoken about before, the generational traumas, what the familial tribe would have us believe, or who they believe that we should become. My mom wanted me to be a doctor. My mother wants me to be a lawyer. Dad wants me to follow in his footsteps in the business. That may not work for us. And it's really hard to go, Dad, I love you, but that's not what I want to do. Mom, I love you too, but I don't want to be a doctor or a lawyer. So those kinds of, and it's going to take courage to do that. People are going to get their noses out of joint. They're going to be upset. You're going to have to sort of navigate a little bit, some mini storms, but you can do that because you're really confident in the work that you're doing and you know what your life's path is. Another thing I talk about in life's path is the value system. Most people, when you talk about a value system, really, a lot of people don't know what that means. They're not really quite sure. So I know that if I stand up, or sorry, if I were to, give you my value system, it's taking the high road: honesty, integrity, gratitude, and honor. Honesty, integrity, gratitude, and honor. And you know that when you're dealing with me in any capacity at all, I'm your mother, I'm your daughter, I have no children, I'm your mother, I'm your daughter, I'm your girlfriend, I'm your wife, I'm your coworker, you are going to get honesty, integrity, gratitude, and honor all the time. Now I'm human and I will make some mini mistakes along the way. I try to keep every mistake I make really kind of small anymore. But I also know the power behind an apology, which, by the way, there is no shame behind an apology. It's one of the greatest things you'll ever do is to apologize when you know you need to. And sometimes an apology, even when you don't think you have to, is some of the most powerful apology at all of all. So going back to the value system, that's your life's blueprint. That's who you are. Every time you come to the table, every time you walk into the room, in every negotiation and every small talk, who you are at all times is your value system, right? So, I think it's really important that, and it's in the book as well, is that you have to create a really good, strong value system because, that's how it's who you are. And that's what that others can count on.
When releasing, what would you just say to someone who is having trouble releasing because maybe becoming a doctor, lawyer, or engineer was important to mom and dad, and mom and dad kind of made the love conditional upon that. So they
Right.
desire the love from their parents,
Right.
but they also have this desire within themselves to do something else, but
Right.
it's conflicting.
Right. Yeah.
So
Well,
how
that's
did you
life.
navigate that?
Well, life is full of conflict, right? But,
Yeah.
do you wanna live a conflicted life for the rest of your life? Because I promise you, you will not be happy. And the idea of look, people say, "Oh, you sound so narcissistic in some of these." It's not narcissism at all. That's a whole nother book with a whole nother a whole nother meaning. What you're after now is your life's purpose, your life's happiness, you know? What is meant for you is never gonna pass you by, number 1, so you can be really sure about that. What is truly meant for you? I think that to live, life with one's purpose, with one's happiness, with something that really, really, flies your kite is where you need to be, concentrating your efforts, if being a dentist or a doctor or a lawyer is not that, then it's not that. And your parents are most definitely. I can only guess, and I surmise they're not going to disown you. They might be disappointed, but I've been disappointed before, and I know I've disappointed others before. I think that's part of life's condition, right? It's who we are as human beings. Done it with malice, and we haven't done it with bad feelings or ill intent. The whole idea behind that is, really, I think some of the when we talk about trust in self and self-importance, self-awareness, learning, all the things, right? We want to be happy. That's one of our greatest life goals is being happy. Not wanting to be happy, is being happy, right? Life is difficult enough as it is without having to, worry about all those kinds of things. So I think that we really just have to give ourselves grace and permission because everybody's sitting around waiting for permission. Hey, listen, I give you permission. Go do what you want. Is that what you're waiting for? There's no, just, life is also very, very short. We think we're here for a very long time, but in the grand scheme of things, we're here for an absolute flash. I may live 98 years, but it's still a flash in time. We are not here that long. So, my advice is to make it count. Make it count for you and potentially and hopefully for others as well.
That's great advice. That's great advice. One of my favorite chapters in the book was Reciprocity.
Mm,
I love that one because with that chapter, mm, you recommend, well, one of the things you talk about is the golden rule,
yes,
treating others like you would treat
absolutely.
yourself. And then tithing or giving your
Well,
time away. I love that because when you do that, and I volunteered in the past before too, when you do that, you're thinking about someone else, and all of a sudden it's like life is good.
yeah, all of a sudden life is good. And the other thing I say about that is, we don't have to do broad stroke gestures. A lot of people go, I don't have the money. It's not about money. Doing something kind for someone else, volunteering, tithing, paying it back, paying it forward, all those lovely things. It's really the energy that's put out into you're putting out, right? It's a beautiful thought, and it's received as a beautiful thought. So if I walk into a supermarket and I cross a woman off I've never seen before and I'll never see again, I'll just go, "Oh, that top is so pretty. That looks so great on you. Thank you." Off I go, off she goes. But there was this beautiful, lovely exchange, and it's, I don't want to get too woo woo, but that energy as you put it out into the universe is a very beautiful thing. And it's kind of, I want to think of it almost as like, the deposits. It's energy deposits, right? It's like with putting money into the bank, you energy deposit because that energy always comes back to you when you need some good vibes, they're always there for you.
Yeah, when you make someone feel good, you feel good too.
Yeah, yep.
Like it's
Yes.
self it feeds itself.
Yes, you're absolutely
Yeah.
right. Yeah. So, all of those lovely things are, don't have to be, again, they do not have to be broad stroke. It could be hold the elevator door for somebody, let the damn car in, let them in traffic. You're all going to go the same. You just, you'll get there. You know what I mean? Be kind. Let's try to be kinder. Let's all take some deep breaths. People, there's such a volatile situation now in the world anyway. I think the more that we can and let's get back to that emotional intelligence that I was talking about before. That's where you check in with like, where am I emotionally? I think I had also talked to you about the emotional, the energetic vibrational scale from Dr. Oh God, Stephen Hawking's. It always comes to me. It takes me a second, but I'll get there. So Stephen Hawking's created the energetic vibrational scale. Did we talk about that the last time?
I think we did briefly, yes.
Yeah. And so, where are we at any given time? So at a very low vibration, we find guilt and shame and jealousy and envy and grief. And this is really, really like yucky stuff that we want to stay away from. And at the very high end, what they call ultimate consciousness, or it's the omega end, whereas the other opposite was the alpha end. We find enlightenment and peace and joy and love and all those beautiful things. I like to check in with this scale every once in a while and see, like, where am I? And when I find that, I'm starting to slide down that scale, I start to do everything I possibly can. Whoop, hold on. We can't go there. Let's find something that's going to bring me some peace or some joy or some willingness. So energetically, every thought that what we think is energy, and that energy goes out into the world. And we've heard this a million times. The universe is going to respond in kind. So if you say to the universe, "Oh, why me? Oh, poor me. Why does this always happen to me? Why can I never get it right?" That you're going to get more of that. And when you say, "You know what? I'm just going to keep trying," and if I fail, first attempt in learning, right? If I fail, it's just because I'm learning, and it's going to be okay. There's going to be a point where I'm going to get it, and then I'm on to the next thing. The first attempt at, the failing part also is, every time you fail, you're that much closer to success. Now, I'm not going to say fail for a lifetime, but, you sort of help, maneuver yourself along as you say, okay, that didn't work out too well. Look, the first light bulb didn't, Edison worked on, that wasn't perfect. The first car off of the assembly line at Ford wasn't perfect, right? All of the things took time to perfect. And some would say that, some of those things still aren't perfect, but we won't go down that path.
Talk to us a little bit more about some of your upcoming projects. I know you have another book you're working on,
Yeah.
retreats. If people want to like work with you or get in touch with you, like what are some things that they can get involved with?
Right. So I'm working on the retreats now, which I think are going to be so, so exciting. And there'll be about 4 or 5 day retreats where we work on the 4 pillars of self-esteem: look good, feel good, be good, and greater good. And so it'd be yeah, about the 4 days we'll take. Each day will have its own look good, feel good, be good, greater good. And I think that's just really, really exciting. And then the book is called Living an Esteemed Life, the second book. And so it's just more of, what we learn. I think I had also told you about the 2 books that I read when I read personally when I was doing the research on the self-esteem regime. And, there's so much more information out there. People think that self-esteem is, yeah, never compare yourself to anybody else. Well, yeah, that too. But, because I think we talked about keeping up with the Joneses and the comparison piece, whereas, the grass is always greener on the other side. I think we talked about that. And the grass is is the grass always greener on the other side, or is it greener where you water it? Right. Or is the grass really greener on the other side, or is it astroturf? Is it fake? Is it plastic? Is it not real? Is it just perception, your perception? So, I go back to the books that I was talking about before, just to say that the work is kind of, it's like, and it's never ending. You can go as deep into this as you want to, and it just keeps getting more beautiful and more luscious, and you become so much happier, and you find your direction, you find purpose, you find peace, you find the permission, you give yourself permission to do it all, just do it, Fear doesn't seem to become as much of a factor anymore. So, yeah, when you were talking about reciprocity before, also, I wanted to touch on that. And that was the last chapter because it was the one that people were calling me out on the most. And I think I was in a
Oh,
business.
really?
Yeah, yes. They were
That's so
calling me
interesting.
because, I'm complete total alpha. I've got all kinds of, I'm totally also ADHD, but I'm pretty alpha. And the people that were working with me back in the day, my secretaries and the people that I would call in for different projects when I was producing TV. And I think one day I said something along the lines of, and I shouldn't have, but remember, this is me 30 some years ago, before I did a lot of inner work. And I said something about, God, it's like, I just feel like I have to do, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done right, or something along those lines. So I was being a little snarky. I get it. I got it. And somebody at the table went, Clarissa, it's so hard to do for you because you do it all. It's really hard to do for you. And I went, okay, message received. So it was the reciprocity. In other words, I do and I do and I give and I give and I control everything, and everybody's good. Everything was, pretty much under the domain, but I wouldn't let anybody reciprocate. And so that's why I threw that in the book, because I really felt that it was important for us. How many of us are guilty of that? It doesn't get, if it, if I don't do it, it doesn't get done right. And I could never delegate. People say I micromanage, but I don't think I do. Well, maybe you do. Take a look at that. Because people don't like that either. You have to learn how to get along in this world. So reciprocity was an important thing there.
So these days, how do you handle those situations when allowing others to take ownership of projects that can help you or take ownership of things? Like, how do you approach that differently than you did 30 years ago?
Yeah, I just give them all the rope they need. I'm here
Okay.
if you need me. Let me know how you're doing. Just check in with me. I'm talking about the people I work with, or potentially I was working with a lot of interns as well. Check in at the end of the day. Let me know what you got done. Let me know where you got stuck. Get with me, when you can, get with me on my calendar and we'll work it out. And we just worked it out. I think before there might have been a little bit more of a fear factor, whereas now I'm much more approachable, I think, than I used to be
So
as a
sort of
leader. Yeah, I
becoming
softened
comfortable
up.
with
Yeah, and I
letting
think
go
it's
a little bit.
yeah, let go, soften up. Yeah, definitely. That was one of the first, the best things I think I could have learned was just it's all because I was very, I was worried about time constraints and getting things, done by deadline and all the, those sorts of things. So it always works out in the wash. Nothing is really that dire.
Yeah, I can relate to that. That wanting to control
Yep.
how things are done, the outcome, making sure it's done right, and a lot of that actually for me loops back to parenting and how I was parented. Things had to be done a certain way, or else
Yeah.
there was punishment to come, and if I did it
Yeah.
the right way,
Yeah.
then that's when I was got praised. So I know that
Got
for
it.
me,
And then that's the
for
beauty of
sure.
what I had talked about before when we had spoken the last time was the power of reparenting. Thanks, mom and dad. I got it from here. I'll be home. You'll hear, I'll be home for Thanksgiving. I'll be home for Christmas. We can talk every day. We can FaceTime every day. But I've got it from here. And that's when you can also step in and start to reparent. Remembering always that we are always coming from the inner child. And we are constantly many of us constantly are having to cuddle the inner child, calm the inner child, feed the inner child, nurture the inner child, reassure the inner child. Right. And so when you get to that point, that inner child also starts to feel lighter and happier and has a better sense of self-esteem and self-confidence and those sorts of things. So also remembering that everyone that you will ever come in contact with has an inner child, right? And that when you get into relationship with someone, and I really think here I'm talking more about romantic and love relationships, but not always. You're always dealing with someone else's inner child.
That's hard to remember when the
Yeah.
person sitting
Yes.
across from you is an adult.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we all have unparented inner children. I say all, a broad stroke, I get it. Most of us feel as though we didn't get the love we wanted, or we didn't get the good things, all the things, all the parent things, right? And I continue to say it's a catalyst for growth. What you didn't get then is what you can give to yourself now. Become the advocate, your own best advocate. Get into the mirror, start telling yourself some amazing things about yourself. Because if you can't do it, I'll do it for you, and then you can take it from there. Like I'll help you along. I will put the words in your mouth until you get it right, until you feel comfortable with that. And so reparenting yourself, being careful with your inner child every time that you're in contact with someone else's inner child. When you're in relationship, and I said, I was saying before, when you're in relationship and it's a love relationship for the most part, when you tell someone you love them, that is a responsibility. That is a responsibility. It's not something to be said lightly, and it's not something to be taken lightly. So when you say that to someone, you now have their heart in your hands, all of it, but you understand the concept, right? Like you take their heart because they've given it to you, right? They've given you a lot of trust with that sentence, with that. If you take that heart and slam it on the ground and start stomping on it, you can potentially destroy. There are many people. Look, all kinds of movies, all kinds of books have been written about, difficulties for not, use, let's just say the difficulties of, and the pain that goes through that you people go through when they break up love relationships. So just be kinder with all of that. I think somebody that sends a text to end a relationship is a coward. I think that everybody, yeah. I mean, what are we talking about here? So, the easy way out. The easy way out is not a gentleman or a lady's way out. And let's level up a little bit, people. Let's just be kinder to one another. Let's do the right thing. Do the right thing.
I love the way you put that, how, when you say you love someone, that's a responsibility. I don't think
Oh
I've
yeah,
ever heard it put that way before. And I love it because it's about the other person. That, when you add responsibility, it's more about the other person than it is about yourself.
absolutely. Either that
Yeah.
or don't say it. Be honest about it. I have feelings for you. Adore being with you. So don't use the word love. I adore being with you. I'm happy when I'm with you, but don't use the word, don't use that phrase, I love you, unless you really mean it.
Yeah.
Because
I don't love you, I like you.
yeah, right. Those are fighting words, right? The I love you,
Yeah.
man. Them's fighting words. So, yeah, just be real. Just do the right thing. Just be a man, be a woman, be honest, be live in integrity. Go back to honesty, integrity, gratitude, and honor. Right? Thank you for being in relationship with me. Here's all the most honest thing. Be honest. Good God Almighty, it's not the end of why can't we come around to that? Could you imagine, Alessandra, if everybody in the world tomorrow morning we woke up and everybody in the world was honest? Think about it. I mean, it never happened, but can you imagine if everybody in the world tomorrow, when you woke up, was honest? Some things could
That
be
would be a different world.
be as everyone.
I love that you have your values down pat, like you know them down pat.
Taking the
That's
high
something.
road, honesty, integrity,
Yeah,
gratitude, and honor.
that's something I'm gonna have to work on.
We all have to work on something, right? That's what that's the beauty of this of personal development. It's, knowing the flaws, giving yourself grace, understanding it, knowing that you have to work on, but you work on it. You don't push it aside. This is not a book to put on the bedside. You can read this book today and it will give you some message. You can read it 6 months from now and you go, I don't remember reading that because you weren't ready for the message. Continually read these. Go get other personal development books. Find some authors that really resonate with you, but do the work.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so awesome. Well, Clarissa, how can people get in touch with you? Like, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, I'm on all socials except Snapchat.
That's for the young folks.
Yeah, I don't even know what it is. Clarissa Burt is fine. I think it's Clarissa Burt official. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm everywhere. Facebook, all the things. It's not hard to find because I'm the only Clarissa Burt that I know. So, actually, there is another Clarissa Burt. She lives in Ohio and she's a professor of Aramaic languages, I think, or something along those lines. But
So,
yeah, but that would not be me. But anyway, yeah, there you go. I mean, it's really simple to find me.
okay, awesome. Well,
ClarissaBurt.com, right there on my website.
thank you so much for sharing your experiences, your knowledge with us. Like all those little golden nuggets, those are great. I know I'm gonna have to work on knowing my values down pat so that when someone asks me, I know what they are. Um, so
Just go
thank you so
Google.
much.
Just go Google. Give me a list of values. Brrrm, and you get this whole thing. Go pick out 4 or 5 of them. The
Yeah,
ones you go, yeah, I got to do that. Yes, that's the one I have to have. And start your list there. And then get into that mirror again. Shut the bathroom door. Be with yourself for a minute. Start with 1 minute. Put it on your little timer thing. 1 minute. Hey, Alessandro, great interview. I love this podcast that you're doing. You're doing a really amazing work for the people that listen to you. That this is your life's path, your life's work. People feel good, and I'm really proud of you for that. Like, start, just saying nice things to yourself.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't do
I
that
think you're.
enough.
I think you're a great dad. The kids, adore you. Whatever. You adore your children. You're such a phenomenal. Maybe we could work. I don't know. You. You just get in the mirror and do it. Just go do it. Commit to the 21 days and then write me an email and tell me how you're feeling.
Awesome. Well, I will do that. Thank
Okay.
you so much, Clarissa.
Welcome. Thanks, Alessandro.